Hello book besties, welcome to Beyond the Blurb. We're going to be talking here all about books, okay? Latest releases, book tropes, book recommendations, favourite MMCs, and also just gossip about what is going on in the book community and the book world with authors, creators, and basically just deep dive into those topics as well because they are equally important. I can't believe I'm actually filming my first episode. Welcome. I thought today's episode would be actually good for me to cover my book recommendations if you are new to reading or if you are new to a particular genre. So I do get this episode isn't going to be for everyone, but it's still worth a listen, okay? Because a lot of these books actually got me into reading or made me fall in love with that particular genre. So like, why would you not be interested, okay? Now, by all means, I have not read every single book under the sun, and there are some amazing books out there. And I haven't picked all of my absolute favourite books, okay? Because these are books that are good for people that are just starting to read a particular genre or books in general. So this is not the order that I've read them in, but I feel like a lot of these I have read at the beginning. So if you're not watching me and you are listening to me, I am on my bed. I've got my old ratchet iPad with me. I'm using that for my list of book recommendations. We're going to start off with romance. The 7-Year Slip. Okay, we're going straight into probably one of my favourite romance books of all time. It is a standalone. It is amazing. I recommend this book to every single person under the sun. I just think whether you are a romance reader or not, I just think you will love it. The concept of it is so interesting. Essentially, the FMC moves into her grandma's old apartment and she notices that the flat has a little bit of a magic to it. Okay, this is magical realism, by the way, not like a fantasy book. And what that means is there's just one little like magical element, but it feels so real. It's not like everyone has powers or anything like that, right? So the flat sometimes jumps 7 years behind. So she's living in the present, but her flat sometimes goes into the past by 7 years and she ends up living with a roommate. She doesn't realise at first that it's kind of 7 years in the past. She's obviously really confused that there's a strange man in her flat, and that relationship obviously blossoms. But what I love about this book is it really shows you how much can change in 7 years and how different people are, because she tries to find him in the present, and her life is different, his life is different, like everything is just different, right? I just think it's beautiful. It's such a beautiful story, and obviously that whole magical realism side of things makes it a little bit more interesting. It's not like a classic romance where they meet in a coffee shop and he's grumpy and she's sunshine and that's it. As much as I love that trope, I do think a lot of romance books have it. So I like to look for something a little bit different. So yeah, 7-Year Slip. Honestly, I'd recommend this to everyone, whether you have been reading for a long time or not. And the next book I treat as a standalone, and that is Snowed In. It is technically, I think, an interconnected series. Snowed In is meant to be the second book, I think, but I just read it on its own as a standalone. I absolutely loved it. It is obviously a festive one, so maybe save that for the festive period, but honestly, this is such an easy read, and the story and the trope is just a classic romance book. But what I loved about this one is how funny the characters actually are and just how much they vibe off one another. Is it an insta love? I wouldn't necessarily say it's an insta love. No, it's not, because they don't insta love, okay? But it's just funny because they're quite sarcastic towards each other, and I feel like getting sarcasm in books is really hard. So this was done right, and I loved every single second of it. Now, some like interconnected series, obviously everyone under the sun has either at least seen, but probably even read Elsie Silver, more specifically Chestnut Springs. Listen, I've actually only recently started reading Chestnut Springs. I've read the 4 books. I think I've got 1 more to go. I do wish I read them more towards the beginning of my reading journey. Okay, hear me out. I love the books. They are fun, but would I have loved them more if I was a beginner reader? Absolutely, okay? I don't know what it is, but I don't see like the biggest hype about them. Like, do you think they're a little bit overhyped? But I'm still recommending them to you because I do think I would have loved them so much, and I think they would have got me more into like the cowboy side and the small town romance if I started reading them at the beginning. I feel like a lot of people that read them towards the beginning of their reading journey absolutely love and adore them, and they're obsessed, and it's like god tier series. If you're planning on reading Elsie Silver, I would definitely recommend reading Elsie Silver quite early on, especially Chestnut Springs. It is really cute and I love some of the MMCs and the stories, but I'm not obsessed. Do you know what I mean? Dark romance, now hear me out. Dark romance has kind of ruined romance books a little bit for me, because when there's like an MMC that thinks they're like super powerful and like really grumpy and broody and whatever, in like a normal romance, like a contemporary romance, I kind of sit there and think, yeah, but no, like what are you going to do, honey? Like you literally live on a farm. Do you know what I mean? It's just annoying for me, to be honest, because yeah, I want to enjoy these MMCs, but then sometimes I just get really cringed out. I'm like, you're not, you know, like you're just not like in the mafia, so like what are you doing, you know? But anyway, I still really love them in their own way, but they're not like my all-time favorite series, but I would definitely recommend. They're interconnected books. The second and the fourth, my favorite. Okay, I haven't read the fifth yet, but I feel like the second and fourth are going to stay my favourite, to be honest. Then we've got the Off-Campus series. This is stunning. This isn't actually the first ice skating book I read. The first one I read was Icebreaker. This was actually read right at the beginning of my reading journey. Very interesting, very spicy. I will say it just starts spicy pretty much on like chapter 2 or something ridiculous. I wouldn't say it's like a lot, but it's a bit like, whoa, you don't really expect it with that book and that cover. And I think that's why that book went so viral. It is good. I actually really liked it. But the Off-Campus series, there's just something else about them. And I think it's because it's an interconnected series where all the MMCs are ice hockey players. And they're all mates. They all go to college. They all just have a great time, basically. And each book concentrates on a different couple. The third book is my all-time favourite. Dean De Laurentiis is just, you know, that cocky player, fear. Oh, yeah. Give him to me now. But to be fair, the first book I also really loved. All of the books I really loved, but I think Dean De Laurentiis just does something else, and I think he's a lot of people's favourites. What I love about the series as well is you experience different tropes, actually just like Chestnut Springs. In Off-Campus you experience different tropes, you get to know them a little bit. So if you are new to romance, then you get exposed to different things. They are young. Maybe that's what I love about Off-Campus. It just reminds me of like uni time. Okay, not that I wasn't single. I was actually in a relationship for the whole of my uni experience. It's not like I got up to anything in naughty, do you know what I mean? But maybe I'm like living through them because I didn't get that time at uni. I don't know. But Chestnut Springs have older adults. I think they're like mid-20s to like mid-30s, I think. So that feels a little bit older, which is nice, whereas Off-Campus is a little bit younger. But it's so fun and you get introduced to the whole ice hockey MMC kind of vibe, and I just love an ice hockey player. I actually prefer ice hockey to a cowboy. I think cowboys just cringe me out a little bit, but I don't know. I don't know. And then if you want a little bit of an introduction to an MMC that is in a little bit of like a grey area where he has some red flags and I don't know, again with like different tropes, you got the Twisted series, okay, by Anna Huang, and these I read really early on in my reading journey as well, and I absolutely loved them. I think if I read them now, I wouldn't love them as much. Maybe the second book I still love because that one was actually so freaking good. I think they are such a nice intro into like the kind of a little bit of morally grey MMC. I say a little bit because again, like you know, mafia romance and dark romance is just, you know, that is morally grey, and that is just morally black, like that is, you know, and the Twisty series seems like a lullaby compared to those books, but it is a really nice intro if you've never read books that have that bit of element where you're not sure about the MMC, should they be together, you know, he's a little bit powerful in some of them, especially. A lot of people hate on the first one, and I remember really liking it, like a lot at the time. I don't know if I'd still like it now reading it, but I did really love it at the time. It's him and his best mate's sister, okay, and he's like asked to babysit her or something like that, but there's like a bit of history surrounding him and the brother and the sister, and it's all kind of interlinked, which is really interesting. And then the second one is actually a bodyguard and a princess. I haven't read a book like this since, okay? Like, where are the bodyguard books? I need more because I think this is the only one that I've ever read, and Reese Larson just does something else for me, okay? He is probably one of my favourite, like, contemporary romance MMCs. Like, he's just, yeah, he's something else. The third one is meant to be haters to lovers, I think. From what I remember, yeah, they do really hate each other. And the first FMC's brother and her best friend, I think. Am I giving these away? No, I'm not. I'm really trying hard to not spoil anything. They basically hate each other, and actually there are parts where he is actually kind of nasty and he says some really horrible comments. So watch out for that. And then the last one, he is some billionaire who owns some massive business, and he's just basically like obsessed, and there's like mild, very, very mild stalking, I think. So that you get introduced to the whole like powerful man who is really obsessed with the FMC, and that's really cool. So yeah, that's why I'd recommend that series. Like, I do think it's a load of fun. Does it have some cringy elements? Probably, but like, also like, what book doesn't at this point? Like, just enjoy it, okay? It's not real life, honey. Okay, then we go into fantasy. Now I've actually got quite a lot written down here, so I'm gonna try and do I speed through these? I don't know. No. First fantasy book that I ever read, shock horror, is ACOTAR. Now, funny story, I kept seeing ACOTAR for a really long time on my TikTok feed. When I first started reading, I was like, oh, I keep seeing this book. I was like, I don't get it. Like, I've never read fantasy before. I can't imagine reading fantasy. Like, it's all fake. Why would you read fantasy, right? And I was speaking to one of my best friends about it, and I was like, oh, have you seen this book, ACOTAR? It's like everywhere. And she was like, what do you mean? What, A Court of Thorns and Roses? I was like, yeah. And she was like, hang on a minute. She went to her like other bedroom, and then, well, her own bedroom. I was in the spare room. And she went and picked up all of her ACOTAR books, gave them to me, and was like, you must read. I was like, you can borrow these or you can get them on your Kindle, but you must read. And I was like, what? And she told me all about them. She was like, this is the best series in the world. Like, you're going to absolutely love it and adore it, blah, blah, blah. She persuaded me to read it, and I fell in love, okay? I kept messaging her. I obviously fell in love with people that I shouldn't have fallen in love with, but it's okay. It's a canon event, people. Let's not ruin it for everyone else. But it was so, so good. And would I recommend it? Like, yes and no. I think ACOTAR does have quite a lot of world building compared to a lot of other series. Did I struggle at the beginning? Maybe like at the very, very beginning, I was a bit like, whoa. And it took me ages to read because I had to really wrap my head around things. Not that it was written badly, because it wasn't. It was just my first ever fantasy book. I had to get used to the writing style and the world. But let me tell you, it is so well described that you can picture everything so accurately. Any AI picture that I've seen online is an accurate representation of what I imagined. So that just says something, right? And it's just like a rite of passage. However, I do also think it will raise really, really high standards for you for future fantasy books. So maybe I wouldn't actually start off with that one. It's really hard because it might make you fall in love with fantasy like it did for me, but also it did raise the standard really high. And as much as like I have rated other fantasy books 5 stars, they're not like god tier books. All of Sarah J Maas books, I'm just going to put it out there now, all of Sarah J Maas series, the three, ACOTAR, Throne of Glass and Crescent City, they're all god tier for me. Okay, god tier. I've got my favourite specific books, but series as a whole and that whole world, god tier. I won't hear it otherwise. Okay, there is no Sarah J Maas slander on this account. Now you've got the Empyrean series by Rebecca Yarros, so like Fourth Wing. Okay, would I recommend it? Again, yes and no. Like, I think the first book specifically is really fun, really easy to read. There's not much world building, so you're not going to get necessarily like bored. I think it's actually a good series to start off with, and one of the best MMCs you will ever come across. I mean, actually, see, ACOTAR, Throne of Glass and Crescent City also have very good MMCs, okay? And I really struggled to pick my favourites. Me and my best friends actually had a conversation earlier on WhatsApp picking who our MMCs are. Like, we did like Azrael versus Lorcan or Azrael versus Aiden, and it was just hard. Like, I know who my favourite is, but I'm going to save that for another episode. But yeah, so you've got the Empyrean series. You meet a lot of people's loves of their lives. He's definitely, I'd say he's my boyfriend, but not my husband. But he's definitely up there. He's a shadow daddy and he's great. You get like dragon riders and scribes, and there's this college and all that, you get trained up. So the first book is quite easy because they just go through all this training, right? I will say that the second book is my least favourite. I thought it was actually quite badly written. Okay, don't come for me, but I got a little bit annoyed, okay? I just got annoyed. However, not overly complicated. But I will say Onyx Storm, confused. Okay, you meet so many new people and it's confusing. Okay, I won't tell you why, but I would probably recommend as a series to start off with before entering Sarah J Maas, because yes, I just said I got a little bit lost in Onyx Storm, but is it because I didn't read them one after the other because I had to wait? I don't know. It's a much easier series to understand, and it's beautiful, and there's a lot of tension, and you will cry, you'll fall in love with characters. It's great. Metal Slinger is actually on my list, and I will really highly recommend this because there isn't like loads and loads of complicated magic. There isn't like a really complicated storyline. I feel like not that much happens, but also a lot happens at the same time. And then you've got like an interesting ending, shall I say, that will make you feel a bit like, what? But it's a fun read actually. And like I said, it's quite easy, so that is a really good book to start off. And there's only one book so far, so you're not delving into this long ass series. Okay, Quicksilver, I've actually seen recently more negative reviews than when it first came out, and I don't know what's going on here, guys. Like, are we changing our minds? Are we suddenly just not liking Quicksilver anymore? And why? What's the reason? I think Quicksilver is great. I've seen people get bored at like 30%, and I kind of get it, but also can we just appreciate the fact that a lot of series books do have slow moments, and we're just going to have to move on and get over that fact. Like, I'm sorry. A lot of good series like Throne of Glass, right, have slow moments. You might not have read Throne of Glass yet, but let me tell you, there are paragraphs after paragraphs and pages and maybe even chapters of them just walking through a field. Like, if you're not telling me that that's not slow, I don't know what you're doing. Okay, with Quicksilver, I kind of get it, and I guess there's like a bit of a mix of like fae vampires, which is very different to anything that I've ever read, and I was a bit like, oh, okay, but I still really liked it. I really did, and I think everyone just needs to relax. I think it's a fun time, so that is also something that I recommend. It's a bit of a big book, so maybe not the very first fantasy. Then you've got these Hollow Vows. Okay, I'm gonna treat this as a duology because I haven't read the other two books. I didn't even know they were out until recently, and they do follow someone completely different, so I'm just gonna treat this as a duology. These Hollow Vows, the first and second book, love and adore them. I think they will these two books will cure, maybe not cure, but like they will help your ACOTAR hangover. They're great to read after basically Sarah J Maas, to be quite honest with you, if you're looking for like fae vibes, but a lot easier to understand, a lot easier to follow, quick, rapid, because there's only two books, so things happen all the time. It's great. Really, really loved it. Caraval. Okay, Caraval, I think I read quite early on in my reading journey as well, and I loved it. Okay, I've seen mixed reviews on this, but if you know what you're getting yourself into, I think you'll really love it, and you have to be in the mood for that book, I will say. It's very magical, very like mystical. You're basically entering the world of Caraval where you don't know what's real, and it's very beautifully written. Stephanie Garber's writing is one of my favourites because it's just so poetic. Loved it and adored it. So freaking good. It's like, I don't want to say it reminds me of a circus because it's not like you're going to see loads of people on like trapezes and elephants running around, you know, but it's just that kind of feel where you get lost in a different world, and it's great. And it's created by this guy called Legend, and there's like only one winner and all that stuff, and it's like a competition. It's really, really fun, and like I said, you don't know what's real and what isn't. You don't really know what's happening, and I love that. You get lost in it. It's great fun. And then I've got two sort of dystopian-esque vibes. You've got Shatter Me, which is a complete series, I think, although now Watch Me is out, and I'm a bit confused because I haven't read that yet. Okay, so I don't actually know if that's the start of like a new side series or if that's just like another standalone. I don't really know, but in my opinion, Shatter Me series is kind of done, right? Honestly, love them. They're really, really short books, so they're really good if you're a beginner. There's a lot of them, but they're really short, and you will meet probably one of your favorite MMCs ever, who's blonde, okay, and a short king, but we love him. Okay, the thing is, I love it so much, but I can't really remember the full premise of it. But it starts off with her being locked in a room for a really long time, and she's like very all over the place psychologically. So the first book I think is not written that well, but I think there's a reason, and that is to represent her brain. Okay, a lot of people complain that it's like, oh, it's not written great, and I think that's the point. I mean, just trust me on that one. Maybe read the blurb. because I can't remember exactly the premise of this. I just remember it is kind of like dystopian. A book that took everyone by storm is Silver Elite by Danny Francis. We still don't know who that is, by the way, as I'm recording this. Really fun. I think if you are new to reading, you will absolutely love this. It's got, I would say it's romance first with very subtle dystopian elements. It is only the first book in the series. There's only one book out, so I have a feeling it's going to be more and more like political and dystopian in the future. A lot of people complained about the fact that it's not very dystopian, it hasn't got enough politics to be dystopian, and I do understand it, but also I don't think that was the whole point. I think the whole point was for it to be romance first, introduction to like a little bit of that dystopian vibes, and then it's going to go more into the politics, because it really reminds me of Divergent in terms of like it's very heavy on the romance, and they're in this like school where they're training, and that was kind of what Divergent was, right? And there wasn't that much of an element of dystopian. Like, yes, there was, but there wasn't in terms of like politics as much as you get in the later films. By the way, I've never read the books, but I've watched the films, so that's what I'm kind of basing it on. Anyway, I think it's a fun time. Just have a go read it, okay? Ignore the haters. Then we're going to go into dark romance, and that is probably my favourite genre, okay? Either that or fantasy. Oh, but I do love it, just a normal romance as well. Anyway, I haven't read loads and loads of dark romance, but I have read good ones if you're a beginner. Although, can I just preface that these were not my first dark romances. My first dark romance was Haunting Adeline. I went into the deep end, let me tell you. I really enjoyed it, okay? It's one of my favourite, actually it still is probably my favourite dark romance, or Insatiable, one of them. But anyway, to start off with, Mindfuck series. Oh, okay. This is my all-time favourite. It is technically dark romance, I think, because it's got like dark elements to it. So the romance itself isn't dark, but it's got dark elements. It's kind of a mixture of like, would you say it's like a mixture of thriller and romance? I don't know. But anyway, I'm classing it as dark romance. One of the best FMCs ever, can I just say? Like a real baddie. All right. So it's an investigator who is searching for a serial killer who is the FMC that he is dating. Now, she's a serial killer for a reason, okay? But from what I remember, they're really short books, so you can kind of class it as like one big book. I kind of just class it as one big book. But if we're splitting it into books, I think book 1 to 3, they're not as dark. They're a little bit gory because you get like the description of the crime scenes, but it's not like dark in terms of why she's doing it and all that kind of stuff. And I think 4 and 5 is where it gets darker and gorier. Yeah. It's so good though. It's so clever. I freaking loved it. Okay. But yeah, the reason why she's a serial killer is not a fun time. Read your trigger warnings. Then we have Lights Out. Now listen, this is probably one of the worst dark romance books that I've ever read, and I really wish I listened to it as an audiobook. Why am I recommending it to you, you ask? Because it is a very beginner dark romance, okay? He is meant to be like a stalker vibe, but he just doesn't take it seriously. He like takes the piss out of himself. He is kind of like, what am I doing? Like, this is so weird. So he doesn't take it overly seriously, but there's also this like random side plot of like this, I don't know, I can't remember what it was. Was it like kidnapping and then powerful people and stuff? I don't really know. It was just a bit a mess, okay? But I do think as a beginner you'd probably enjoy this because it has a lot of humour and it laughs off a lot of the topics. And I think if you are new to dark romance, you want to dip your toes in it with like the more light-hearted edge to it, this will be a really good one. And I've heard the audiobook is really good, so I would probably listen to that. And then the last dark romance series that I'm going to recommend is Devil's Night series by Penelope Douglas. Now, Penelope Douglas is known for writing quite rogue stories. It's the same author of Credence that I also read quite early on in my reading journey, and I was shooketh, okay? I was not mentally prepared for that book, but I'm not talking about it negatively because I get it, okay? I get why the book is loved. Just wasn't personally for me. But Devil's Night was so good, and I think it's such a good dark romance series to read next. I think if you read Mindfuck series and Lights Out, and then you read Devil's Night, and you get introduced to more like morally grey and morally messed up and like mentally unwell MMCs. They do wear masks and they have like this devil's night where they basically like run around town and ruin things. They have like this prank each and there's 4 of them. Okay, I'm probably not selling it to you, but it is good. Okay, some of the elements can be a little bit cringe, and I do get why people are like, oh, it's a little bit cringe. I get it, I do, but I think if you are, again, early on into like dark romance, this is a good place to start. And you get introduced to masked men. There actually aren't that many scenes with them wearing masks though, which I was a bit disappointed on. And there are some really fun scenes. And yeah, the 3rd book is probably the darkest with the best MMC. He is like psychologically unwell from past trauma, and you just want to give him a hug and just fix him. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I think those are a really, really good place to start in dark romance. Now, thriller, I'm not a huge thriller girly. I thought I would be. When I first started reading, I thought I would read majority thriller, but actually, no, not a bit of me. And I think it's because I predict endings way too quickly and easily. Like, I overanalyze everything that I'm reading in a thriller. With any other series, any other book, I will enjoy the ride, okay? With a thriller, my mind goes into like analytical mode and it's like, okay, so who could it be now? And I ruin it for myself. This is why I don't really read them. But Frida McFadden, okay, I know everyone knows Frida McFadden, but if you are new to thriller or especially new to books actually, Frida McFadden is really good. And if you don't read a lot of books, you will probably think Frida McFadden is amazing. Like, I know a few people that don't really read a lot unless they're like on holiday, and they absolutely love Frida McFadden. Me personally, like, I've read a couple of good ones. They kind of follow a similar formula after a while. So once you've read a few, you kind of see what's coming. But yeah, they are good, especially for people that are new to reading. My favorite is Never Lie. Absolute genius. I freaking loved that one. And I also really loved The Housemaid 1 and 2. Hated the 3rd, didn't see the point of it, but I loved the 1st and 2nd. So good. There was another one, but I always forget the name, and it's in like, is it a mental asylum or a prison or something like that? I enjoyed that one. Me and my best friends read it together. It was interesting, but it was really predictable, and there was a lot of plot holes, which really annoyed me, but still a fun time. And The Naturals is probably my favorite, by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. Oh, love it. They're basically young, are they young adults or are they actually children? I can't remember, but they're young people that have a specific skill set from past trauma that help the FBI solve cold cases. Really, really good, really good. But there is also a side story that is incredible, by the way. I'm not going to ruin it for you. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but it involves pretty much all of the characters, probably. Really good. But throughout the books, you read about them solving these cold cases, and you also read about that side story that becomes the main story in the last book, I think. And there's like a tiny bit of romance as well. It is YA, really easy to read. I remember the chapters literally being like 3 minutes, which is amazing. So you get through the book super quickly. They're a lot of fun. There's a lot of mystery, and it's super, super clever as well. I highly recommend reading The Naturals if you haven't already. And that's it. Oh my God, I've actually sped through all of these books. I feel like I thought I was going to talk for absolute hours, but I was really good. I'm really impressed with myself. Let me know if you end up reading any of those or if you have already. But like I said, some of these books I read really early on in my reading journey and I absolutely loved them. But would I love them as much now if I read them? I don't know. Maybe. Some of these books I have read recently and absolutely loved them and thought they would work really well for more of a beginner. But yeah, let me know if there's any other books you'd recommend. It's hard to know what to read in this world now because everyone has got book recommendations, so I do get it's a little bit overwhelming. So I hope this helped you a little bit at least.